July 15th, 2020, a Wednesday afternoon in America. Elon Musk tweeted, "Feeling generous because of COVID-19. I'll double any Bitcoin payment sent to my address for the next hour." Then Barack Obama posted the same thing. Then Joe Biden. Then Bill Gates. Then Apple. Then Jeff Bezos. 130 of the most powerful, most verified accounts on the entire internet hacked, all pushing the same Bitcoin scam. In less than 2 hours, one of the world's largest social media platforms had been completely hijacked. The most powerful voices on the internet, silenced and weaponized by a single attacker.
And the person who did it was a 17-year-old kid sitting in his bedroom in Tampa, Florida.
July 15th, 2020. For approximately 2 hours, the most powerful social media platform on Earth lost control of its own infrastructure. Not to a nation-state, not to a criminal syndicate with millions in resources, to a 17-year-old kid sitting in his bedroom in Tampa, Florida. In a single afternoon, he seized control of the accounts of Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Apple, Uber, 130 of the most powerful, most watched accounts on the planet, all compromised, all weaponized, all in under 60 minutes. Within hours, $120,000 in Bitcoin flowed directly into his wallets. Not stolen from a bank, not cracked from a vault, sent willingly by ordinary people who believed they were receiving a message from the most trusted names in the world. CrowdStrike co-founder Dmitry Alperovich called it, quote, "the worst hack of a major social media platform to date." Not because of the money, because during a US presidential election year, the most influential voices on Earth had been stolen, and anyone could have used them to say anything. This is the story of how it happened. Who did it? How a boy with no army, no funding, and no sophisticated tools found the one vulnerability that no firewall can patch. The one weakness that lives inside every system, every company, every government on Earth. Graham Ivan Clark was born in 2003. He grew up in Tampa, Florida, an ordinary kid in an ordinary city. But online, he was something else entirely. As a young teenager, Clark found himself drawn into the competitive underground of hardcore factions, Minecraft communities. If you've never heard of them, these were cutthroat digital economies where players fought, schemed, and betrayed each other for virtual items and in-game currency. But Clark wasn't just playing the game. He was studying people. He was learning which psychological triggers made someone hand over something they shouldn't. Urgency, authority, greed, fear. By the time most teenagers were studying for their SATs, Graham Clark had already mastered the most dangerous skill in cybercrime, making people do exactly what you want them to do. In 2019, Clark was 16 years old. Using the online alias Scrim, he executed a sophisticated SIM swapping attack against Greg Bennett, a Seattle-based angel investor. The target? 164 Bitcoin, at the time worth millions. Clark bypassed Bennett's two-factor authentication, redirected his phone number, and drained the account. Then he sent extortion notes, not just theft, dominance. The Secret Service investigated. They recovered 100 of the stolen Bitcoin, but Clark was never arrested. He was a minor. The system that was supposed to stop him chose to let him go. And that decision, that single failure of follow-through, left Graham Ivan Clark with a multi-million-dollar war chest and zero consequences. The message he received was simple. He was untouchable. With millions in his pocket and no prison cell in his past, Clark didn't stop. he leveled up. He began studying something bigger, something that most cybersecurity experts considered theoretically vulnerable, but practically protected: Twitter's internal infrastructure. And somewhere inside that company's architecture was a door that, if you could get someone to open it for you, gave you access to everything. They called it God Mode.
Before we talk about what Graham Clark did on July 15th, we need to talk about what he found. Because the weapon he used wasn't malware. It wasn't a virus. It wasn't a line of code written in some dark basement. The weapon was a door that Twitter had left wide open and handed keys to 1,500 people. Inside Twitter's internal infrastructure lived a tool, an employee support tool, designed to help Twitter staff resolve user account issues, change an email address, reset a password, handle a locked account. Standard customer service functionality. Except this tool didn't just help users. This tool gave whoever was sitting at that screen complete, total, unrestricted control over every single account on the platform, all 330 million of them. And here is where Twitter's first catastrophic failure begins. This tool, this master key to the entire platform, was accessible to approximately 1,500 employees. 1,500 people. Customer service agents, support staff, mid-level administrators. Not 15, not 50. 1,500 human beings, each one a potential attack surface. Each one a door that a social engineer could knock on. In the world of cybersecurity, this is called overly broad access. In the real world, it's called leaving your front door unlocked and giving a copy of your key to half the neighborhood. And it gets worse. Twitter had been warned. As early as 2015, 5 years before the attack, security researchers had raised red flags about the potential for exactly this kind of insider-based attack. The warnings were noted, documented, and then deprioritized, set aside in favor of revenue-generating initiatives. The New York State Department of Financial Services would later confirm it in their official report. Twitter, at the time of the breach, lacked a chief information security officer. The company responsible for the real-time communication of 330 million people had no CISO. Then, March 2020, the world shuts down. Twitter, like virtually every major corporation on Earth, moves its entire workforce to remote environments almost overnight. And with that transition, the already fragile security infrastructure of the platform becomes something else entirely. When employees work in an office, there are physical safeguards. You can see who's calling. You can walk over to IT. You can verify a colleague's face. But at home, alone, behind a screen, the only way to verify someone's identity is through a phone call, through a voice. And Graham Clark knew exactly what to do with a voice. Clark and his crew began with reconnaissance. They didn't guess who had access to God Mode. They researched it. Using LinkedIn, the professional network that every corporate employee voluntarily populates with their job title, their responsibilities, their seniority level, they identified Twitter employees whose roles suggested administrative privileges, account support, trust and safety, internal operations, people whose job description quietly announced, "I have the keys." Then came the call. Clark's crew contacted the targeted employees by phone, posing as Twitter's own IT department. The script was rehearsed. The tone was confident, authoritative, urgent. "There's an issue with your VPN credentials. We need you to log in through this link to verify your access. Standard procedure. Takes 30 seconds. We'll stay on the line." And the link they sent, built to look identical to Twitter's internal VPN portal, captured the employee's username, password, and multi-factor authentication code in real time. The employee handed over the master key and never knew they'd done it. With the credentials in hand, Clark's crew navigated Twitter's internal Slack channels. Not the public Slack, the internal one, where employees share documentation, system access notes, internal links, where buried in the routine noise of a corporate workday, they found exactly what they were looking for. The admin tool, God mode. And just like that, for the first time in Twitter's 14-year history, an outsider was sitting at the controls of the entire platform. The door was open. 330 million accounts, every verified voice on the planet, and a 17-year-old from Tampa was the only one sitting in front of it. He had 1 hour, and he was going to make it count. July 15th, 2020 begins now.
It is May 3rd, 2020. Most people are inside. The world is locked down. Twitter's workforce is scattered across thousands of home offices, kitchen tables, and spare bedrooms. And somewhere in that vast, disconnected network of remote workers, a door is quietly being tested. Graham Clark has already found the tool. He is already inside. He just isn't ready to use it yet. He's watching, learning, waiting. Before targeting the big names, before the presidents and the billionaires, Clark tested the weapon quietly. Using God mode, he began seizing short, rare Twitter usernames, the so-called OG handles. Usernames like @6, originally belonging to the late security researcher Adrian Lamo, a man who had famously exposed Chelsea Manning, now just another digital asset to Clark, a commodity, a proof of concept. He sold these handles on OG Users, an underground forum where rare usernames trade for thousands of dollars. The weapon worked. No one noticed. No alarms, no red flags. The platform didn't even flinch. Clark wasn't working alone. He operated under the alias Kirk, #5270 on Discord. Around him, 3 co-conspirators, Mason Sheppard, operating as Cheywan, Nima Fazeli, known as Rolex, and Joseph James O'Connor, Plug Walk Joe. Together, they formed a loosely organized crew, bound not by ideology or politics, but by one shared motive: money. Each played a different role, brokering sales, facilitating crypto transactions, managing the OG users' forum presence. Clark was the engine. They were the infrastructure. July 15th, 2020, 8 p.m. Coordinated Universal Time. The first shots are fired, but they're quiet ones. Clark begins with cryptocurrency platform accounts: Coinbase, Binance. The logic is elegant. Crypto audiences are already primed to talk about Bitcoin. A scam tweet from a major crypto exchange feels native, natural. The fake messages go up. Giving back to the community. Send $500 in Bitcoin to this address, and I'll send you 1,000 back. And people, real people, start sending. At 8:17 p.m. UTC, 17 minutes into the attack, Clark levels up. He takes the most followed account in the tech world, Elon Musk, the man synonymous with Bitcoin, with Tesla, with SpaceX, one of the most recognizable humans on the planet. The scam tweet goes out from Musk's account, and within minutes, the floodgates open. Because if Elon Musk says he's giving away Bitcoin, who questions it? Between 8:30 and 9 p.m. UTC, the attack escalates into something that has no precedent in the history of social media. Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Apple, Uber, one by one, the most trusted voices in global technology fall under Clark's control. Each new account adds legitimacy to the last. Each new tweet makes the previous ones seem more real. This is the architecture of a perfect con, and it is running in real time in front of hundreds of millions of people with no one able to stop it. At 9:11 p.m. UTC, The attack crosses a line that shook the entire U.S. intelligence community. Clark seizes the accounts of Barack Obama and Joe Biden, then the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee in an election just months away. For the first time in history, the official Twitter voice of a former U.S. president was under the control of a teenager in Tampa, Florida. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just a scam anymore. This was a demonstration of what a motivated attacker or a foreign government could do to the most influential communication platform on Earth. At 9:45 p.m. UTC, Twitter makes a decision that had never been made before in the platform's 14-year history. They killed the blue checkmark. Every verified account, every politician, every celebrity, every news organization, every global corporation was blocked from tweeting. Simultaneously, instantaneously, the entire verified tier of Twitter went silent. If you had a blue tick that night, you couldn't say a word. And for approximately 45 minutes, the loudest voices on the internet said nothing. When the dust settled, the numbers told the story. 130 accounts compromised. 36 had their private direct messages accessed and read. 8 accounts had their complete data archives, every DM, every photo, every deleted tweet downloaded by the attackers. $120,000 in Bitcoin stolen from ordinary people. And buried in those 8 downloaded archives were accounts belonging to politicians, accounts whose private messages, had Clark chosen to use them differently, could have been weaponized for blackmail, disinformation, or geopolitical manipulation. He chose money. The next attacker might not. By 10:30 p.m. UTC, Twitter had restored most account functions. The attack was over. The scam had run its course. Clark closed his laptops, transferred his Bitcoin, and in Tampa, Florida, a 17-year-old went to sleep. He had just executed the most significant hack of a major social media platform in history, and as far as he knew, no one was coming for him. But in FBI field offices across the country, the lights were on, and the most sophisticated digital forensics operation in American history had just begun. By midnight on July 15, 2020, it was over. The accounts were restored, the Bitcoin was transferred, the attackers had gone quiet. But the world had not. Because when 330 million people wake up and discover that Elon Musk, Barack Obama, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, and the sitting vice presidential candidate all sent fraudulent Bitcoin messages from their verified accounts on the same afternoon, the questions don't stop. They multiply. Within hours, every major news organization on the planet was running the story. The New York Times, the Washington Post, BBC, CNN, Reuters. Not just as a tech story, as a national security story, because the timing was impossible to ignore. The United States was 4 months from a presidential election. The candidates' accounts had been compromised. The primary tool for real-time political communication in modern America had been proven, categorically, publicly, undeniably, to be breakable by a teenager with a phone and a convincing voice. The markets responded immediately. In after-hours trading on July 15th, Twitter's stock dropped approximately 3% in one afternoon, not because of earnings, not because of a lawsuit or a scandal, because the world had watched in real time as the platform's most fundamental promise was broken. The promise that a verified blue checkmark means you are who you say you are. That promise, once broken, is almost impossible to fully restore. Advertisers noticed, investors noticed, and behind closed doors in Silicon Valley boardrooms, the question being asked was the same question being asked in Washington. How did this happen? At 10:47 p.m. UTC on the night of the attack, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey tweeted, a single, carefully worded message. Tough day for us at Twitter. We all feel terrible this happened. We're diagnosing and will share everything we can when we have a more complete picture of exactly what happened. 11 words of apology wrapped in a corporate crisis communications framework. No specifics, no accountability, no explanation of how a 17-year-old had just dismantled the infrastructure of his $14 billion company using a phone call. The cybersecurity community noticed the gap between what Dorsey said and what had actually happened. In Washington, the reaction was swift, and it carried a tone not of curiosity, but of alarm. The Senate Commerce Committee and the Senate Intelligence Committee both dispatched formal letters to Jack Dorsey demanding answers, not suggestions, demands. Because what had happened on July 15th wasn't just embarrassing for a tech company, it was a live demonstration broadcast to the entire world of how a single coordinated attack on a social media platform could be used to manipulate public opinion, spread disinformation, or destabilize an election. And the attacker had chosen Bitcoin. The next one might choose something far more dangerous.
But while governments debated and corporations managed their messaging, there were real people who had lost real money. $120,000 in Bitcoin, sent voluntarily by ordinary people who trusted what they were reading. Not sophisticated investors, not crypto veterans who should have known better. Regular people. A retired teacher in Ohio who thought Elon Musk was giving money away. A small business owner in Georgia who had just gotten into Bitcoin and thought he'd found his first big break. People who saw a blue check mark next to a name they recognized and made a decision in 30 seconds that cost them hundreds of dollars because they trusted the platform, and the platform had failed them.
For the global cybersecurity community, July 15th, 2020 was not a surprise. It was a confirmation. Security researchers had been warning about the vulnerability of social engineering attacks for years. The lesson was not new, but the scale was. CrowdStrike's Dmitry Alperovitch called it the worst hack of a major social media platform to date, not because of the money stolen, but because of what it proved, that during a U.S. presidential election year, the most influential real-time communication platform on Earth could be seized completely, instantly, by someone who never wrote a single line of malicious code. The weapon wasn't technical, it was human. And human vulnerabilities don't get patched with a software update. The world was watching. Congress was demanding answers. The victims were counting their losses. And somewhere in Tampa, Florida, Graham Ivan Clark was counting his Bitcoin. He believed he had gotten away with it. He had been invisible before. He had walked away from the Secret Service before. He was 17. He was untouchable. But this time, the scale was different. The eyes watching him were different. The New York Department of Financial Services was building a case. The IRS Criminal Investigation Division was on it. And the FBI's Cyber Division, the most sophisticated digital forensics operation on the planet, had one objective: find the kid. And this time, they would. Graham Clark made one fundamental error in his thinking. He believed that because he had never written a single line of malicious code, because he had used no exploits, no malware, no 0 days, he had left no trail. He believed that a phone call couldn't be traced, that a Bitcoin wallet was anonymous, that a Discord username was a mask. He was wrong about all of it. Because in the world of federal digital forensics, every click, every transaction, every login leaves something behind. And the FBI had just assembled the most sophisticated team of investigators ever put on a cybercrime case. They weren't looking for a ghost. They were looking for a 17-year-old who had made a series of very human mistakes.
This investigation was not a single-agency operation. What assembled in the days following July 15th was a coordinated federal task force unlike anything the cybercrime world had seen. The FBI's Cyber Division, the IRS Criminal Investigation Unit, the same division that brought down Al Capone on tax charges, the United States Secret Service, and internationally, the United Kingdom's National Crime Agency, which would prove critical in tracking Clark's co-conspirators overseas. 4 agencies, one objective: find the people who had just broken Twitter before they did it again, or before someone far more dangerous used the same playbook. The first thread investigators pulled was the Bitcoin, because here is what Clark and his crew did not fully understand about cryptocurrency. It is not anonymous, it is pseudonymous. Every single Bitcoin transaction ever made is recorded permanently on a public ledger, the blockchain, visible to anyone who knows how to read it. The investigators brought in Chainalysis, the world's leading blockchain analytics firm, and gave them the Bitcoin addresses that had received the stolen funds. What Chainalysis found was a trail, not a hidden one, not an encrypted one, a trail that led with remarkable directness to 2 of the most compliant, law-abiding financial institutions in the cryptocurrency space, Coinbase and Binance. And here is where Clark's crew made the mistake that ended everything. In order to convert Bitcoin into real money, into dollars they could actually spend, they needed to use established cryptocurrency exchanges that required something called KYC, Know Your Customer. It is a federal regulatory requirement. Before you can open an account at a legitimate crypto exchange, you must submit government-issued identification, a driver's license, a passport, a real name, a real face. Clark's co-conspirators, Mason Sheppard and Nima Fazeli, had used Coinbase and Binance to cash out, and those exchanges had their IDs on file. The moment investigators subpoenaed those records, the masks came off.
The second thread ran through Discord. Federal investigators served Discord with a search warrant, and Discord complied. The logs were handed over. And inside those logs were the complete planning conversations between Kirk #5270 and his network of brokers. Every negotiation, every instruction, every sale. The coordination of the entire attack documented in real time, in Kirk's own words, preserved on a server he thought was private. But it was the third thread that proved to be the most unexpected weapon in the investigators' arsenal. In May 2020, 2 months before the Twitter attack, the OG Users Forum had been hacked. Its entire database had been leaked publicly, including the IP addresses and email addresses of every registered member. Addresses that investigators could now cross-reference against the aliases they already knew: Rolex, Chaiwan, Plug Walk Joe, real names hiding behind gamer handles in a database that was already public. They had been exposed before the attack even happened.
But the thread that sealed the case against Graham Clark specifically, the one that put his name at the center of everything, came not from blockchain forensics or leaked databases, it came from a person. When federal agents executed a search warrant at a residence in Northern California, they encountered a minor who had participated peripherally in the scheme. That minor talked, and what they told investigators connected every thread that had been running in parallel for the previous 2 weeks. The Discord alias Kirk, the OG users sales, the God mode access, the Vision calls. Graham Ivan Clark, Tampa, Florida, 17 years old. By the end of July 2020, less than 3 weeks after the attack, federal investigators had assembled a case file that was, by any measure, airtight.
Blockchain records placing the stolen Bitcoin directly in wallets linked to real identities, Discord logs documenting the planning in the perpetrator's own words, KYC records from Coinbase and Binance with government-issued IDs attached, a leaked forum database placing the co-conspirators inside the operation before the attack even launched, and a witness who had confirmed the identity of the man at the center of it all. Graham Clark had believed he was invisible. He had believed that digital crime, executed from a bedroom, left nothing behind. He had never counted on the most dangerous investigative tool in the federal arsenal, the paper trail he created by trying to spend the money. On July 31st, 2020, 16 days after the most significant hack of a social media platform in history, law enforcement moved. Graham Ivan Clark was arrested at his home in Tampa, Florida. He was charged with 30 felony counts under Florida state law because at 17, 1 year below federal adult prosecution thresholds, the decision was made to try him as an adult in state court. Mason Sheppard was arrested in the United Kingdom, Nima Fazeli in California, and Joseph O'Connor, Plug Walk Joe, would eventually be tracked to Spain, where he would spend years fighting extradition before being returned to face American justice in 2023. The operation was over. The crew was caught, but the question that remained, the one that the cybersecurity world, Congress, and Twitter's own board were still asking, was not about Graham Clark. It was about the system that let him in, and what it would take to make sure it never happened again.
Because Graham Clark was 17 at the time of the offense, federal prosecutors couldn't touch him. So Florida made a bold and controversial move. They charged him as an adult in state court. 30 felony counts, organized fraud, communication fraud, everything laid bare.
Clark pleaded guilty. The prosecution laid out everything: the phishing calls, the God mode access, the Bitcoin scam, the 130 accounts, the $120,000 stolen. There was nowhere to hide. Under Florida's Youthful Offender Act, the judge sentenced Graham Ivan Clark to 3 years in a juvenile facility, followed by 3 years of probation. It was the maximum the law allowed.
And when he got out, Graham Clark was prohibited from touching any computer or electronic device without the express permission and supervision of a probation officer. The boy who hacked Twitter couldn't open a laptop alone.
On February 16, 2023, Graham Clark walked free. He remains under probation until 2026.
Joseph James O'Connor, Plug Walk Joe, was extradited from Spain in 2023. His crimes went far beyond Twitter. SIM swapping attacks, stealing nearly $800,000 in cryptocurrency, cyber-stalking a minor, making swatting calls. The federal judge sentenced him to 5 years in prison and ordered him to forfeit everything.
And Mason Sheppard? Still facing federal charges. Wire fraud conspiracy. Money laundering. Up to 45 years. For selling stolen Twitter handles he thought were just usernames. The hack forced Twitter into a reckoning it could no longer avoid. At the time of the breach, Twitter had no chief information security officer, no mandatory hardware security keys for employees, no multi-person approval system for high-risk internal actions. All of that changed immediately. Within 3 months, Twitter mandated that every single employee use a hardware security key, a physical device, to access internal systems. No more SMS codes, no more soft targets. If you don't have the key in your hand, you're not getting in. The God Mode tool was restructured. High-risk actions now require multi-person approval. No single employee, no matter their clearance level, can flip the switch alone. kingdom is no longer ruled by one key. Here is the lesson the entire technology industry learned in July 2020. The most sophisticated social media platform on Earth wasn't cracked by a zero-day exploit. It wasn't breached by nation-state hackers or supercomputers. It was taken down by a 17-year-old with a phone.
You can build the strongest firewall in the world. You can encrypt every byte of data. But if one employee, one person answers the wrong phone call at the wrong moment, your entire kingdom falls. The human element is always the most exploitable vulnerability in any system.
In a world where everything is connected, trust is the operating system. And when trust is manipulated, the whole system crashes.
Graham Clark is free today. Somewhere out there, under the watch of a probation officer, he's living with what he did. The question isn't whether another teenager with a phone and a plan could do it again. Subscribe to Cybercrime Files. Every week, we open a new case. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming.